everybody, Lord Maim here again with part 3 of the Mass Effect 3 Insanity walkthrough, N7 Cerberus Labs. And as the title suggests, this is the first of the N7 missions, the optional side missions that you'll be getting over the course of the game. What makes these missions kind of unique is that they're actually recycled versions of the multiplayer missions you'll be playing during the Galaxy at War multiplayer. This one in particular, Glacier, is a very small self-contained map. What you'll find is that after the first couple of waves, where the enemy is coming from is a whole lot less easy to predict. If you find you're taking fire from a weird direction or a direction you don't expect, just hit one of those two buttons and time will stop. You'll be able to look around, identify where you're being attacked from, reassess the situation, and then let go when you're ready to engage again. In this mission you'll be dealing with a lot of Centurions, a disproportionate number actually towards the end of the mission, so be prepared to deal with a lot of smoke and frag grenades. You may actually want to swap out your sniper rifle sight on this mission for the sight that will actually be able to see through smoke. If you don't have that mod available at this point, you can actually pick one up in this mission, and I'll show you where that is in just a moment. In the meantime, there are only 5 assault troopers and a Centurion in this first wave before you find the first artifact. So clear those out as quickly as possible using your sniper rifle or your assault rifle. Then move into the room when safe. Checking your radar, there's nothing there. There'll be some credits here, and if you look to your left, there is your sniper rifle enhanced scope. If you haven't picked one up before, when you're playing on Insanity, you'll start with a level 5. There'll be a couple of more instances of credits there. I will come back more later, apparently. And then finally, the Reaper artifact that you'll be picking up. Once you deactivate the force field, you'll be able to pick up the artifact and go back to the drop point. Before you do, I'll be drunk in the corner. And then after I'm done being drunk in the corner, go across the way here, and there's actually data from a failed metagel experiment that is actually required to complete the Citadel Alien Metagel Formula side quest, one of the little hub missions you get from the ambient dialogue you hear as you pass by. Once you drop off the first Reaper artifact at the shuttle, the second one will be located back the way you came, and will trigger a second encounter. This one will introduce a new enemy, one that we haven't seen yet, called the Combat Engineer. The Combat Engineer carries with him a shielded turret that he'll deploy wherever there's room, usually in strategic choke points or wherever most irritating to you. Once we deal with these Centurions and a couple of assault troopers, we'll see the Combat Engineer actually start setting up there. You'll notice here as well that the enemies will not all spawn coming from the same direction. They will actively try to get around behind you and come from unpredictable directions on this map. I don't know if it's a byproduct of it being a multiplayer map, so the pathing is different, or simply because the map is so small, they're coming from all directions at once. But it does make for a dangerous situation if you're not continuously checking your radar. So make sure to bring up your weapon or power radials frequently and have a look at the radar in the lower right-hand corner to see that you're not being surrounded. So we see here our friendly neighborhood combat engineer and his goddamn shielded turret from hell, which you'll probably learn to hate as much as I do. The thing spews out a ridiculous amount of fire, and on Insanity it can wear down your shields in life in seconds. And had it been placed just a bit to the right and been firing straight down the empty hallway here, it would have been much more difficult to approach these doors. So it does definitely change the flow of combat if one's placed in a bad area. You'll see here that if you are able to disrupt the combat engineer before the turret is deployed, it can blow up in his face and damage him. And obviously, it's always desirable to disrupt the placement of the turret before it goes down, because those things are just evil. Once all the enemies are taken care of, move to the second Reaper artifact. You'll want to set your squad in cover immediately here, because the second you activate this containment system switch, 2 assault troopers will drop from the ceiling directly in front of you. if you've placed your squad correctly, you can get the drop on the 2 troopers and eliminate them before they are able to turn around and open fire, making getting to the next encounter a little bit easier. So, once the coast is cleared, set your squad to move up as much as possible so that you can get a bit of an advance head start on this run. The second you pick up the Reaper artifact, you're going to trigger the mother of all waves. Honestly, I think this one's infinite. I don't know how many enemies there are. It seems to be a continuous spawn from now until the end of the mission. It'll be primarily assault troopers and centurions. It will be supplemented occasionally by guardians towards the end of the wave when the shuttle comes back. There will be a couple of combat engineers. Luckily, there aren't that many combat engineers because even a couple of turrets in this stage would be ridiculously fatal. The thing about this, because it is based on a multiplayer level, as I mentioned before, and since everything's connected together, enemies are going to come from all sides in this area. It's really difficult to find any safe spot that will not allow the enemy to flank you. I try to stay in this area here near the beginning, first of all because it's more or less defensible. There's only 2 ways to get in, either through this side door or back the way I came in. The second reason is because obviously the shuttle is going to come in right there to the right, and you want to be running for that shuttle the second it's safe to do so. So set your squad to be in a safe position, try to take out any Cerberus troops that threaten your position, and as much as possible try to stay behind cover and cheat the corner to eliminate these enemies. Don't even poke your head up out of cover. If you were to do that, you're going to get hit from all sides. I would not recommend going into either room, either into this room or out back into the hallway the way you came in, simply because when you start moving around the level, it not only messes with the spawns and potentially could either cause enemies to pop up both in front of and behind you, but at times your squad will get lost and get caught up moving, trying to follow you, and get essentially walk right into an ambush when they shouldn't. So try to stay as still as possible. If you do have to move straight ahead and to the left into that lower section between where I am now and the door. There's a number of little barriers and barricades that you can move around in between and still be safe more or less from either side. In that position, you can at least recover your life and shields if necessary. But right where I am in this general vicinity is probably the safest place you could be in this area. This honestly is a bit of a Charlie Foxtrot when it comes to levels. Have your squad use powers. Since I don't have Garrus in my party as yet, I don't have access to overload. If you see there, I've got like 4 or 5 Centurions at once, which is far too much smoke to have in any level, let alone a level this tiny. So use stasis. Liara's stasis will be a good backup instead of using the overload that you would use to get rid of their shields. Another reason when you're in cover, if you're using abilities, careful that they don't trigger directly on you by hitting the cover instead of the enemy that you're targeting. You saw right there, it happened to blow through my shields by accident. And always, always, as soon as possible, when you see a grenade landing near you, roll out of the way, move to a safe position, keep moving. Because if there's this many Centurions on the level, there is going to be times where you'll have to roll away from more than one grenade in a row. If you need to revive someone, move up and revive them without using Metagel, but in some situations you'll be just so far out of position or you'll need the health anyway. It's worth doing. So here's one of these times where you need to kind of withdraw and regroup. The Guardian is right there, and my Singularity at the time had not been recharged. Faced with this Centurion behind me, I find myself kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So instead, roll out to the right and then back to my original position. You can easily sit there. Now that there's no one actually in this room, if you check your radar, I can just take a brief respite here and go right back to my original position. But again, Guardians and Singularity, very, very effective.
I hope he's still alive.
He'll make it. Let's just keep the landing pad clear.
Nice. Only a few troops left, but if you look, they're still continuously spawning. A combat engineer is actually going to sneak into that corner and plant a turret, if you can believe it, right next to the evacuation area, because he's a prick. When you're in the final stretch before the shuttle returns, you'll trigger an autosave that'll at least give you a checkpoint right before the end. Just hang on this last little bit. Enemies are still spawning in this room, but you definitely don't want to leave the area. You want to be able to rush to the shuttle as quickly as possible once the thing comes in, assuming it is safe to do so.
Coming in hot. Be ready. Heading for extraction point now.
As you can see right there, even a moment's indecision or an incorrect jump over a barrier can result in near death. Until you have Garrison your party full-time and access to the overload, Liara's stasis ability is at least a fallback power. Simply freeze your enemy and then overwhelm him with headshots. It's not the most elegant solution, but at this point it's probably the best you have to deal with enemies that normally would be far too powerful to go toe-to-toe with. Singularity can still be used on these enemies after you've reduced their shields to nothing, but usually it's just better to go with a straight stasis followed by headshots. You can hear that the turret has gone down, and I'm glad that combat engineer is flying around getting shot. Just listen to that thing spewing out rounds. And again, on Insanity, those things will chew up your shields and life in seconds. There's a shuttle. It's still not quite safe, so don't lose your head. But definitely start making your way over there. There are still far too many enemies in this room. Couple of frag grenades. Of course, they follow suit themselves, but a couple of frag grenades, some extra fire, and run for it. And that'll be N7 Cerberus Lab. Tune in next time for Part 4, Priority Palaven, where we'll be going to the Tyrian homeworld and, of course, recruit our all-time favorite second-in-command. Until then, I'm Lord Maim. Thanks for watching.